Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sportageous videocast, where we bring you insights into the sporting world straight from athletes, sports biz, sports professionals, and more. On today's episode, our guest is a mountainpreneur by passion, a networker by profession, and a visual storyteller by accident. He has an MBA-Marketing degree from GC University Lahore and dabbles into astro and nightscape photography. He not only climbs mountains, but documents his expeditions. His highest summit is climbing Spantik, which is a 7,027 meter tall Karakoram giant. Saad, Mohamed, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you.
It's good to have you here, mate. And look, I just wanted to start off. Tell me a little bit about the cap that you've got on.
So this is a Balti hat. It's made of wool. And being Balti, I mean from Skardu and adjoining areas. But if you go up north in Pakistan, so Skardu, Hunza, Chitral, they all have similar hats. Slight differences make them, like this one has a bit more roundish corners. So this is more of what a native would wear. Then the feather in the hat, pretty much the feather, is more of a ceremonial thing. So if you're going to a party or to a function or to even a political gathering, so you'd wear that. I use it when I go to attend weddings or if I'd be on a talk show, let's say. So that then is when I put that on. So kind of enhances the feel. You feel like a prince.
Okay, so you're a mountainpreneur.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the term, and then I want to understand from you what got you into mountaineering and the preneur or the entrepreneur side of things and merging them together.
Yeah. So again, you've been able to dissect that word. So mountaineer, and an entrepreneur. That's what makes a mountainpreneur. And for me, for the longest time, when I started trekking, my first what you'd call funded expedition was when I was in university and went to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the first ascent of K2 to Concordia. So I trekked up to that, and it was my university, my club at the university, GC University, that funded that expedition. So that was the first time I got to know, okay, I can get funds to do what I enjoy. And when I started mountaineering later down the road, it was more like, okay, so I'm spending out of my own pocket and I'm making a profile without realizing that that is what I'm actually doing. And then I started making these sponsorship proposals back in 2009. So it's been 11 years now. So I learned a lot along the way. And it was not until 2012 that I actually got sponsored for my first major expedition. And that was not because I was because of what I made as a proposal, but it was more of a state-sponsored expedition. I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I made it to Spantik, and I ended up climbing to the summit, my first 7,000. So now that's a model where you see, okay, I want to do this sport, and you do realize it's a very expensive sport. The equipment is expensive, going there, logistics are expensive, mountaineering is expensive, and if you choose to climb Everest, you're talking about thousands of dollars. So I knew from the very start that this would not be sustainable out of my own pocket once I go into the bigger league, once I decide that I want to climb 8,000ers and I want to climb them every year. So I wanted it to be sustainable. So now I'm at a point where it's becoming sustainable, although it's not something I would call my profession because it doesn't bring me bread and butter. But I've stopped spending out of my own pocket. And how I've done that has been in recent years. Earlier, it was just getting funded for the expedition. Now it's more like, what is it that you could give back to the brand? So what I found out is that I can, since I do, like you said, I document what I do. So not only do I document my journey, but I do brand shout outs from the base camp. I sit there, have their logo or superimpose it later on. And I do a short video for them. So that is one way of becoming a mountainpreneur or an entrepreneur. Or the second has been, because there's more than one way. The other is you start a mentorship program, or you take a small group of people up to the base camp. So that's your tour operations. But then again, that's an offshoot of already what I'm doing. The third is that more recently I've literally gone from making 1-minute videos on Instagram to making 22-minute episodes for a TV channel. So that pretty much changed the game. And that has made me a mountain entrepreneur. So mountainpreneur.
Yeah, right. And what was that transition like, going from, doing those 1-minute clips on social media to then doing episodes for a TV channel? What was the change, I guess, in the creative process? And what was the experience like going from that to that? Because it is a big difference.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was experimenting, and in 2017, when I went climbing Everest and I made it to Camp 3, so I had all the data which I intended to put up on my YouTube channel, and I did put it up on the YouTube channel. And I noticed that not a lot of people watched it. I was getting 300, 400, maybe 500 views, and I was pushing it all organically on all of my other platforms. So I decided, okay, let's see if I make shorter videos. And Instagram was something new, and IGTV wasn't there back then. And I wanted to limit myself to 1 minute so that I wouldn't, so I could fit in the category, because 1 minute was the limit. And when I decided to make that, it was like, okay, I'm not putting it up on YouTube, or maybe I'll do a 1-minute video, and the longer version will go on YouTube. And this is from my 2018 Gasherbrum expedition, Gasherbrum I. But yes, when I did go to the channel, and the channel wanted me to make 22 minutes per episode, I was like, wow, how am I going to do this? And so what I did was I overshot. I shot loads and loads of footage so that I don't run out of footage. But even then, I had to, when we started making those episodes, I had to dig into my older footage. So you gotta, in TV or in any medium, you just gotta change, tuck, this frame changes with music, with unless you're standing and saying and showing something, that might linger on for a minute or two, but otherwise a minute in a 22-minute episode is a lifetime.
Yeah, that's the kind of effort it takes after you've done everything that you're doing already. So hats off on that front. So you touched on a few of the mountains, Gasherbrum, Sputnik, K2, and having summited some of the points on these mountains. What are you working towards? What's the goal? I mean, I would be naive of me to think that anyone's goal isn't Everest, but there's also K2, which of course is where in the country that you're based in, you're from. So tell me a little bit about that.
So for me, the journey has been very gradual. From 1996 to 2005, I just did treks. I did lakes, I did high passes, I did base camps. I'd been to Rakaposhi base camp. I'd seen a few base camps of Nanga Parbat. I'd seen K2 base camp, Broad Peak base camp. So only in 2006, after having done it for like 9 years, I decided now I want to do something different. I want to climb. And I chose a trekking peak. There's a valley, Shimshal, from where Samina Beg hails from. And it's near Hunza. So I had a friend over there who said, come over, we'll do a peak. It's a 6,000er, it's a trekking peak, you need nothing. I was like, wow, I'll be a 6,000er. So that was my first expedition. It was an epic failure. That's another story. But yeah, so I made it to like 5,500. I passed out, I had to be carried out. But that didn't stop me. Next year, I took it easy. Then in 2008, I did my first summit around 5,500. So again in Shimshal. So after having done that, I got lucky in 2012. Meanwhile, I was climbing. I was going again and again to Shimshal, to other places, doing some treks, doing something, anything, everything. And in 2012, I got to climb Spantik, which is a 7,000er. And I wasn't the fittest when I went there. I was probably the weakest link, but I was still able to pull it off. So that was like, okay, if I can do a 7,000er now, 2012 is when I started thinking about, okay, now I can do an 8,000er. Before that, I had no intention of climbing an 8,000er. So 2013, I started making proposals for Gasherbrum or Broad Peak, because these are known as the more doable 8,000ers in Pakistan, technically speaking. But when I got sponsored for Everest, and I ended up going to Everest in 2017 and made it to Camp 3, 7,070 meters on Everest, which is higher than the highest peak I've done. So yeah, so I would love to go to Everest again. But before I do that, I would want to climb an 8,000er locally. I've been attempting Gasherbrums. I've been there twice now, and I believe they're doable. The icefall of the Gasherbrums are kind of very much like the Khumbu icefall on Everest. And the difficulty level is very similar, although on Khumbu you have got those ladders and you've got all the ropes and stuff. Over here, there's lesser support. The crevasses are smaller, but the fatigue is similar. So yeah, so for the coming years, yes, we've got 5 8,000ers in Pakistan. Leaving out K2, I would definitely want to climb Broad Peak, even Nanga Parbat. Yeah, so these are what I'm thinking right now, what I'm preparing for right now. If I get a chance to go to the Gasherbrums again, I would not think twice. But yeah, if I'm able to do one of these in Pakistan, I might even go for K2 before I go to Everest again. I just might, I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, good luck.
Thank you.
What I find really interesting about everything that you've just said is that mountaineering is so multifaceted, in that you require a large set of skills, abilities to summit a peak. For example, you'll be trekking up. You then have to be able to camp, live outdoors, use the tools that you have, utilize them to the most optimum level, do the technical climbs, manage your stamina levels, fatigue, which you touched on.
Yeah.
What are some of the most challenging aspects of it, in your opinion? Because I'm obviously coming as a layperson into this. I haven't done it. I don't know. But from my minimal understanding, that's what I assume are some of the things you have to do. But if you could perhaps maybe detail this a little bit and then really tell me about the challenges involved.
So yeah, so for a layman, you know quite a lot actually. But yeah, see, so when I'm asked, expeditions actually start on paper. So first you gotta decide where you're going. Then once you've decided that peak, you start your homework on that peak, and you eventually do find out how many days you'll be out. Let's say it's a month, and within that month, how many nights will be in a on the way in transit? How many will be in a camp or on the approach march at the base camp? So base camp pretty much is your second home, so becomes kind of the easier part. And then how many nights will you be on the mountain itself? First, let's say it's an 8,000er in Pakistan, so you can safely assume 20 days will be your actual climbing time on the mountain. The rest is in transit or on the base camp. So once you have that, now you have the itinerary. Even for a smaller expedition, you make that itinerary, and now you know what the amount of meals that you'll need. So that's the planning part. So if it's you're self-organizing, then you know, okay, so this many nights outside, this many meals, and you're not eating like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you're on the trail. So it's mostly breakfast and and supper, and there's maybe snacks in between. There is no dinner as such. At the base camp, yeah, you start having the 3 meals again. So you got to plan that way. So that's the first challenge. And once you've got that sorted out, now the second challenge is get the funding. So if you've earned that funding, so that's you've already had the funds, but otherwise if you're going out, reaching out to sponsors, so then that's a totally different field. So we as mountaineers and athletes who do everything themselves, that's a very big challenge to be running around sponsors and getting that done, and also training while you're doing that, and also living a normal life while you're doing these two things. And so then again, not there are people who are fitter than me. I know people in Islamabad who do ultra running on trails of Margalas, but they don't go mountaineering because there's another challenge which is called time. You got to take out time to go to the mountains. A 7,000er would need 20 to 30 days. An 8,000er would need 30 to 45 days. So yeah, so not everyone can do that. So that again is a challenge. Then, so I've talked about the planning, the funding, and the time. Now beyond so for someone like me who's spent so much time on the mountains, there's the muscle memory. So even if I'm not super fit, once on the trail, everything becomes A1. It's like the knee that was giving me trouble in the city is now pretty good. Yeah. It's not saying anything anymore. So yeah, and then again, I guess the amount of sunlight you're getting and the freshness of the air and everything that kind of gets you, gives you a high, gives you better energy. And then when I said that the base camp does feel like home, because when you start climbing, the mountain is very hostile. It's like a desert. It's like a desert of snow and ice, because you just can't eat the snow or ice. You get dehydrated up there. That's the most problematic thing up there. So once you get back to the base camp and you have fresh water, nothing like it. I can pretty much feel my throat go dry right now just talking about it. So yeah, so you're away for 30, 40 days in a major expedition. For Everest, you're away for 2 months. So one of the challenges, other than the skill level and the risk that is inherent risk that is involved, you could fall into a crevasse or you could break a leg or something, is the amount of time you're spending away from your family and your loved ones. So that kind of the loneliness takes a lot of toll on you. You have to have that willpower. You have to have that strength, mental strength. And there might be more challenges than just that. The mountain conditions might be changing. The weather might be changing. You might have to attempt maybe more than once. So that really does take a lot of mental toll on you. So I guess these are the things that I've learned the hard way. So a younger mountaineer who's just starting out, if they know that the sort of temperament you need and the sort of mental strength you need to go there, and if they can work on it, the positivity, the positive side of it, if they can visualize, I'm going to the summit, I'm going to make it. Yeah. If they can do it from now, it would be a much easier journey.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, really fascinating. And just before I get into it, Saad, I did want to say to everyone listening or watching, be sure to go down in the description or the information wherever you are and head over to Saad's YouTube channel to check out, what he's doing and the videos he's creating. Subscribe, hit that notification button as well, and be sure to keep an eye out on what he's up to, because the videos are awesome and I can vouch for that, having seen them.
Thank you.
Coming back to what you said, Saad, it's really interesting that you bring up the mental side of things and the mental toll that it can take, because this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent in, a general context, but in the context of an athlete. And, other different sports require different kinds of mental conditioning or self-belief, willpower, resilience. And resilience is particularly one of the areas that's very interesting to me. In a sport such as the one that you're in, I think resilience must be paramount in the things that you're doing. And what I found really fascinating about what you were saying earlier was that, you're up there, you're alone, you don't have a coach to support you or cheer you on, you don't have fans there, you don't have necessarily even have a competitor who you're climbing against or anything of that sort. It's all you and nature.
Yeah.
And what's running through your mind when you're, say 6,000 meters up on a mountain and want to push for that extra 1,000, but your body is giving up? And then at the same time, how do you sort of run me through that thought process? Like what goes on in your head, and how do you make sure that, you can overcome your head, your conscious telling you, enough, Saad, enough is enough, like let's go home. Yeah.
So again, there's a few things that need to be there as a prerequisite, because I've been to Shimshal like 7 times now. And Shimshal is one of the few places where I go another 7 times, because there are quite a few and kind of endless possibilities over there. There are still 6,000ers which haven't been climbed, which are in Shimshal. So you can go pretty much name a peak. So since I've been there so many times, and I've like done treks where I've had to trek above a high pass and be on my feet for 12, 14 hours. Like we say in Urdu, mare khai nahi. So we've pretty much been through that experience. So yes, the muscle memory is there. And even if you're not entirely fit or in your fittest form, you can make it to the base camp because of that muscle memory. But beyond the base camp, your physical fitness is what I'd say is of paramount importance, because if you aren't fit beyond the base camp, the mountain won't forgive you. And then again, now, and so for a long time, I used to hope, okay, I've got some fitness going, I've reached the base camp. So you've trekked 8 days getting to the base camp. So you do get some level of fitness while just going into the base camp, but that's probably not the best approach. If you're already athletic, you're already at your prime, so it would really help. You'd be lighter, you'd be moving faster. So, but yeah, then again, at 6,000, frankly, even at the base camps, in the evenings when the sun goes down, it's very, very depressing. And again, talking about being alone at 6,000 meters is even more lonely. So you have your high porters. Sometimes you can walk out, you can talk to the neighbors meaning other climbers. They've camped. He or she might be there one day. They might be going down. They might be going up. So they're following their own schedule. But yeah, you could talk to them maybe for 10 minutes, 20, 30, maybe share a meal. But that's about it. After that, you're then again alone. So what so I did a few training courses here and there, but that wasn't really my kind of thing. I was like, I'm hardcore mountaineer, and this is like taking people to Mari Nathia Gali, which doesn't really make much sense. So I was networking, I was meeting people, and along came this guy who was a certified life coach. And I didn't know what life coaching was. So life coaching is defined differently by different people, but in general, it is there to heal and handle mental issues, mostly. Issues like fear, issues like decision making, like depression, like guilt, stuff like that. So while getting that certification, I pretty much went through the process itself. And all it does, there's no medication as such, there's only the power of words, mild hypnosis, and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I found out the power of words is amazing. And something clicked. Although I did level 1, I didn't go through the level 2 because I wasn't going to practice it as such. But it opened to me to the idea that you got to be in control of your mind instead of your mind controlling you all the time. So if you look behind me, there's this big vista, a framed vista. So I'm sure you can't see it from there, but this is Everest. And it's got Everest Lotse. It's my mother who gave me before I actually went to Everest. And when she gave it to me, I didn't know I would end up going there. So now,
Yeah, right.
So now I'm very careful of what I hang in my room because I end up going there. I pretty much end up going there. So yeah, that is how strong visuals and the way you think and the things you're attracting in your life would matter. So at 6,000, when you're depressed, you got to focus on the good things. I said all of this just to make this point that you got to focus. You got to focus on, you got to visualize because it's going to be harder, much more harder while you're at 6,000 meters. You don't have fresh water. You don't have the sort of food you'd want. Actually, you don't want to eat anything, even if you have food over there. So your thinking capacity has gone down. But even then, you got to focus. Yeah, I'm going to make it to the summit. Yes, I'm going to climb. Yes, everything's going to be okay. And plus, if you are able to have your situational awareness, make a good enough decision, you make it. So yeah, that's how it works.
I really like the perspective because it's quite unique from what I've heard from other athletes, obviously, in their sports and so on. So really, really interesting. And
there's one thing that I would want to add here. So I don't know if you're aware, but I played squash for a very long time. So I've been actually at club level. I've won. I've been top seed at my club in Lahore. So I'm pretty good. But then there's a thing. If you've played squash, or if you know the terminology of squash, there's a shot that's called a nick. So you hit the ball. It hits the corner between the wall and the floor, and the ball rolls. Doesn't come out. So you could be lucky to hit a nick, or you could actually be aiming for the nick. So a nick is, if you look at the probability, a nick is like an almost impossible shot to play. Like the probability is kind of wayward. So I got pretty good at hitting a backhand volley nick because I kept practicing it. But even before I started practicing it, what I realized was if I was able to visualize myself hitting a ball from a volley position, a volley is harder actually, but if I can visualize myself hitting a backhand volley nick, only then can I start hitting it. So yeah, visualization, I guess, is very imperative, is very important.
Absolutely. I think every squash player that I talk to says cross-court nick is their favorite shot. You know, every pro squash player, because squash is one of the sports that we cover at Sportages. And and you know, we've had some great people like Jeff Hunt, our legend here in Australia, come on and chat to us. And so I know all about the squash terminology, play a bit myself. Got the squash center 300 meters from where I live.
Nice.
So
very nice.
Pretty convenient, But
so that's
a whole other story.
That's a backhand cross-court nick. So
volley. Wow. Look, Saad, just before we wrap up, I had a couple of more questions for you. One, of course, pertaining to Pakistan, where you are, and mountaineering. You know, like you said, Simchal alone in the valley, there are so many peaks. And across Pakistan, so many more. You know, you were talking about Gasherbrum and everything there. And now, ignoring or perhaps not bringing COVID into the equation, but there's been a resurgence of tourism. There's essentially this platform for mountaineering to really take the country by storm. So in your opinion, but of course, like, again, from my understanding, like I have a really good mate over here who was one of the people who worked on launching the Gilgit-Baltistan cycling tour de Pakistan, tour de Kunjara.
Wow.
And he flies over every year to compete from Australia. And you know, now speaking from that perspective, while the event is great, there's still a lot of work behind the scenes that needs to be done to improve. Where does mountaineering stand on this scale? Because sport outside of cricket in Pakistan, it's tough, and I'm sure you know more about it than I do. But the future is set. There's a lot of opportunity, but what is needed and what's already working, in your opinion?
So the good thing is that there are quite a few local mountaineers coming up now. Back in the days, back in 80s, 70s, initially it was mostly the army guys who would climb LOs. They would go as LOs with the bigger names in mountaineering, and they'd end up climbing mountains on their own as well. The other route was you're a high altitude porter, and you're a porter, you become a high altitude porter. Even if you're an expedition cook, you become a porter or a high altitude porter, and then you eventually end up, if you're lucky, you become a mountaineer. Because so that was how things were. Right now, there's a lot of people from the main cities, and then there are a lot of women and ladies who've taken up mountaineering, which is very, very encouraging. So they've been funding it themselves. They've been reaching out to brands. Samina Beg is a big name now. Yeah. She's done Everest. She's done the 7 Summit Challenge. So that's the good thing, that we've got more local mountaineers. Then what I've seen is, even if tourism overall has suffered, mountaineering still doesn't get too much affected. I've been to Everest, Gasherbrums in the last 3 years, and I've seen a lot of same faces come back again. So it's like a exclusive club. It's like pretty much the same people you get to see there and you get to see here on different mountains every year. So they'll come back. They gotta climb. They could either go to Nepal or come to Pakistan. And these are pretty much the coveted peaks and the mountains that you would want to climb eventually. But what I've learned very recently have been going to these talks and conferences on tourism in Pakistan. I've been lucky to attend some of them. What the focus right now is on sustainable tourism, on local tourism, and how to facilitate the local tourists. Because if you look at the Turkish model, they have a big chunk of foreign tourists coming. The Russians go there. Quite a few Europeans go there. A lot of Pakistanis have started going there. I went there before it became fashionable to go to Turkey. But yeah, so what they do is they pretty much focus on the local tourists. There are destinations within Turkey only local tourists go to. Even the destinations that are meant for foreign tourists, they have special days which are exclusive for local tourists. So if you're able to facilitate your local tourist, the foreign tourist is a byproduct. You'd get them anyway, because mountaineers are coming in, they are spending good money, so we should be facilitating them. But yes, the focus should be on local tourism, should be on the local mountaineers, should be on the local scene, so that if you can facilitate them, the foreigners then again would be easily catered to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess on that note, one more thing that I would want to ask is, this is also essentially an opportunity for what you touched on with regards to sustainable tourism, sustainable mountaineering. One of the issues that has been under scrutiny as of late, for example, here in Australia with rock climbers, is that they leave a mess after they've sent the route that they wanted to send. And it's been a very interesting sort of parallel to that is the case of Saudi Arabia, which has just opened up wide-scale climbing, particularly rock climbing, not mountaineering. But everywhere they have made portable dustbins, have asked everybody who comes to climb not to use plastic. So bring your own Tupperware, bring your own glasses, reusable glasses, spoons, forks, so you don't throw them away and make a mess. Is that something that needs to be looked at, something that you think is important? What's it like there at the moment?
So this is a pretty big problem in not even just the mountains, but down in Hunza, since the local tourist influx has increased. The locals have been complaining about this, that people from down the plains come up and they pretty much mess up the whole place. in places like Hunza, we will need sanitary workers or a system, a kind of garbage disposal, so to say. So that will be needed for bigger tourist destinations, like even Naran would need that. Murray has it, but Gilead, what they've been doing is they dump it into one of the ravines. What recently did happen is that they cleared up, and there was a tunnel, a historical tunnel down there, and
wow.
So that happened. But in the mountains, what's been happening is that every few years, or even every year, there's a cleanup expedition. Mostly after most of the expeditions have left, and there's like bags and bags of trash that needs to be carried out. The good thing was that they were dumping it in one place instead of like initially there's a camp at K2, there's a camp at Gasherbrum, there's a camp at Concordia. A lot of trekkers go up to Concordia and then they come back. Concordia is from where you get to see K2 after having trekked like 6-7 days. Before that, you just can't even see K2. So a lot of camps come up to Concordia and then they go back. So the main dumping point was Concordia. Then there are a lot of army camps in this area, one big one near Gasherbrum. So they also have a lot of trash that they need to dispose of. So donkey movement or mule movement is to get stuff from the last village up to the army camps. Mostly the donkeys and the mules are used for that. Now they've also started being used by the trekking expeditions and the mountaineering expeditions. So they do go in when they're loaded. On the way back, they'd be carrying empty canisters of gasoline, of what's it called, the fuel that the army might use. So they're coming back pretty much empty, just with those. So they could be used as carrying out garbage. But other than that, the cleanup expedition can only do so much. As in, they could make their target. Okay, so this many tons of garbage we'll remove. But what about the other stuff that's been left behind? If they went to K2 base camp, that was the only base camp they cleaned. Gasherbrum is still there. The other mountains are still there. So in the mountains, sometimes it isn't practical. What I've seen in Nepal, but then that is different, is they use the helicopters very extensively. Even on the glacier, what they do is under the toilet tent, they put a drum, and when it fills up, they seal it and close it. Now that drum is carried out by a heli. Over here, we don't have enough helis. We just have one service which flies 2 helis every time they have to come into Baltoro. So much more hostile environment. But maybe we need more helis or a service that is just doing this only for maybe rescue and for garbage removal, because that's a very practical way of doing it. Who would want to carry a big drum full of smelly stuff on their backs? So we have solutions, but then we gotta do a workaround. We gotta make things work. So more cleanup expeditions, and maybe the guys, the tour operators, need to take more responsibility because they're getting paid to facilitate the expeditioners. The expeditioners again could be more careful about throwing stuff away, and so everyone plays their part. But more cleanup expeditions needed currently to get the existing trash off the glacier.
Fantastic, Saad. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And once again, for everyone watching, listening, wherever you're tuning in, be sure to head over to Saad's YouTube channel. You'll find it in the description of wherever you are. Subscribe, hit that like button, follow the videos, check them out. Saad, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. The feeling is mutual. I really enjoyed my time.